When COVID-19 hit Texas, we all felt the rush. The rush to empty shelves, the rush to restock them, and for some reason, the rush for toilet paper.
Yeah, toilet paper wasn't really a concern.
But for Warren Lee, a North Texas man from Euless, he didn't experience the toilet paper crisis of 2020. Instead, he was stuck in Wuhan, China, where there was the first known case of COVID-19.
I'm in Wuhan, and the city is in quarantine because of the coronavirus, whatever they call it.
In January 2020, no one knew much about the virus.
Well, I guess right now, between you and me, this is pretty much the only kind of connection that we have.
It was a lot of fear and uncertainty for a man who was just there to visit his girlfriend in China.
During the first couple weeks there was probably one of the darkest moments I've ever experienced.
He contacted the American embassy and was put on a list for immediate extradition.
I found out a day later that was the last flight out.
Warren couldn't get home and made his life in Wuhan work.
That's the thing, it was just so quiet. It's dead quiet.
His quarantine was relatable in many ways.
We stayed inside, we played video games, we watched Netflix, and that's just what it was. I mean, kind of drove you a little bit nuts at times.
But the difference is, a few months later,
back to normal?
Yeah, practically entirely back to normal.
Today in Wuhan, there are few COVID cases, while the up and down spikes continue in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
How did they fix it so quickly?
They took it seriously. The pandemic does not care about your laws. It doesn't care about, your opinions or anything. It will spread. That is the core thing. And until we address it as a purely binary factor of whatever that virus is, we're never going to get past this.
Warren flew back to Dallas in December only to relive the pandemic, realizing home isn't what it once was.
It doesn't really feel like the same place that I left.
And while our nation deals with a real virus, the virus that continues to plague this country is hate.
Could something happen to me,
Because you're Asian.
Yeah.
There's a rise in Asians being attacked since the COVID-19 pandemic started. More than 2,800 incidents of anti-Asian hate was recorded from March to December 2020, according to Stop AAPI Hate. There were 77 reports in Texas, but guarantee many are unreported.
We have to speak out that, we have a right to exist. We have a right to be happy. We have a right to, dignity.
Warren has been home for about 2 months, and he feels the rush.
The only way that we're going to do it is by doing it together.
The rush to eliminate 2 viruses, COVID-19 and hate.
It's eventually going to get better, right? That's my hope.
In Dallas, I'm Tiffany Liou. Where do I begin? I am angry, I am sad, and I'm scared. I'm scared because I don't want my family to become the next target, to be the next Asian Americans killed out of hate. But I also know that if I have the platform to speak, I have to set my fears aside because this racism and this hate against Asians, against everyone, it has to stop. I am first-generation American. I am the daughter of 2 immigrants. My mom and dad came from Taiwan to the United States to give my sister and me a better life. And I am so proud to be Asian. In my lifetime, I have been called a lot of racial slurs. So many that it's hard to list them all, and they're really hard to hear. Just a few years ago, my Asian neighbors who lived down the street from my childhood home were tied up, robbed, and beat inside their own home. These suspects waited for them to pull into their garage and attacked. And you know what that did to my neighborhood? Every single person went out and bought surveillance cameras because they were so scared. They were afraid to open their doors because they felt like the Asian community was being attacked. It even happened in Dallas. Just about a month ago at Target, I was shunned by the cashier. She didn't want to take my payment. She didn't look me in the eye. She didn't talk to me, but she was happy to talk to the customer behind me. know how that made me feel? I felt like she was disgusted by me because of my race. I felt like she was disgusted by my husband, who is Asian as well. Not long ago, somebody's saying that they wanted this communist reporter who brought the Kung flu to Texas to be fired. Well, I am here to tell the bigots that I'm not going anywhere. I am here to give a voice to the Asian community that is all too often silenced. We have to talk about what happened in Atlanta. 8 people were killed at 3 Asian businesses, and 6 of those victims were Asian women. Everybody's waiting to hear what the motive is. Was it a hate crime or was it not? Let me just make one thing very clear. His motive does not negate the way Asian Americans are feeling about what happened and about what's continuing to happen across the country. There are Asians being attacked, hit, pushed, stabbed, killed. There are Asian businesses that are being targeted, threatened, and graffitied. And yes, many of us are culturally quiet and polite, taught to not cause any trouble, but you can only push a person so far. I am standing with my Asian brothers and sisters, and I need you to stand with us too. I don't care your color or creed, and by that, I don't mean black, white, brown, or yellow. I also mean blue, red, green, or purple. Rhetoric matters. Speak up when you see hate. Use your platforms to denounce racism, and reach out to your leaders and your elected officials to pass anti-hate legislation. And of course, check in on your Asian neighbors and friends. We need you right now. We need you to stand with us. We need you to fight alongside us to stop Asian hate. Detour Donuts and Coffee in Frisco is known for their gourmet donuts.
We change our flavors on a monthly basis.
And the special this week,
Stop Asian Hate,
is personal.
Stop Asian Hate Donuts.
Ginny Cho is the owner.
I am an Asian woman, and I'm an Asian-owned business.
Born in South Korea
안녕하세요.
and raised in North Texas, she says the pandemic has been tough, seeing an increase in hate crimes against Asians in America.
It's not okay.
The deadly shooting happened in Atlanta.
It's hitting way harder.
And Ginny sees the unsettling fear in the Asian community.
We need to show up for our people, and this is the best way I know how.
She's donating the money from these donuts to support the AAPI Community Fund. AAPI stands for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and Ginny will match what her customers buy. She understands not everyone supports this.
We got a call earlier today saying, like, you guys are going to be the laughing stock of Frisco. You're ruining your business. The cut is like so deep, yeah.
But Ginny is focusing on the good.
We have a glaze and of course my favorite blueberry, but you know, this is beautiful.
Van Green drove 30 minutes
This is why I'm here.
just to get this donut.
Yes.
Erin Ball delivered flowers and a hug.
I'm proud of you for using donuts to communicate what is on your heart.
And Karen Yort just missed it, but she stands with her Asian neighbors.
We're all out.
Oh no!
I know, but we'll make more this weekend.
It's a conversation over a donut for a cause that weighs heavy on Ginny's heart.
We're not okay. Yeah.
In Frisco, I'm Tiffany Liou.
Go back to whatever Asian country you belong in.
Racism is nothing new.
Asian piece of
Oh my God.
But until recently, there were rarely headlines about discrimination against Asians in America.
There is news tonight about the growing incidence of racist and often violent attacks against Asian Americans.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic started, we have seen time and time again, captured on video, Asians attacked across the country.
Somebody pushed me from the back and started hitting me.
Some people have said, oh, well, none of that was here in Texas. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. In San Antonio, an Asian restaurant was graffitied. Go back to China was written on the wood. The words Kung Flu were sprayed on the windows.
Funny thing is, I'm not even Chinese. I'm half Vietnamese, half French.
In Dallas, a Star's employee was fired for writing a message on the Nextdoor app that promoted violence against people from China. In Midland, an Asian American family was stabbed at a Sam's Club.
When I turned around, he just stuck my face with a knife.
It left a father and his 2- and 6-year-old children hospitalized. The FBI confirms it was a hate crime, saying the suspect thought the family was Chinese, infecting people with coronavirus. It's happening, yes, even in Texas, and the silence needs to stop.
Feels like a lot lately where we should be calling ourselves the divided states of America.
Lang Win is an Army veteran. Last year, he says he was waiting in line to vote in Irving when he took a sip of water and choked. The woman in front of him turned around.
And saying, like, all of you guys are spreading that corona around. I don't want it.
Another person behind Lang stood up for him as he kept quiet in a state of shock. After Lang voted, he went outside to thank the Good Samaritan when he says this happened.
I just remember a cop car pulling up, and it looked like he was in a rush. He goes inside, rushes by us, comes back out towards me, and he starts asking me for identification. And I'm just like, for what? Are you serious?
Lang told the officer the woman made racist remarks to him before calling the police. He says the officer ended up defending him too. This type of verbal abuse is all too common, not just for individuals, but for businesses as well.
A few customers came by and they made comments.
Holly Wynn is the owner of OMG Tacos in Richardson, an Asian-owned restaurant with a diverse staff.
They asked other, team members, like, are you worried because you work with them? Implying like, oh, Asian people have COVID.
The xenophobia against Asians often feels dismissed.
A lot of people don't hear about it because nobody talks about it.
Even those in authority feel the hate.
As police officers going out answering calls, there'll be times, when I deal with either suspects or the citizens, they'll, call me names.
Senior Corporal Sunam has been with the Dallas Police Department for almost 11 years.
I'm from Korea. They call me go back to China.
He believes the increase in hate against Asians is fueled by the words of former President Donald Trump.
COVID, to be specific, COVID-19, that name gets further and further away from China as opposed to calling it the Chinese virus. I can name Kung Flu.
Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China.
When you hear people saying the rhetoric, it's a Chinese virus, it's a Chinese virus, then people will think that. Because you keep repeating them, you keep feeding people that message.
Feeding the hate.
It's clear that hate speech leads to hate violence.
Dr. Russell Jung is a professor of Asian American Studies at San Francisco State University and co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate. AAPI stands for Asian American Pacific Islander.
The more people feel free to say things that are derogatory, that are demeaning, the more they feel free to attack and to hit.
His organization collected data from across the country. Between March 2020 and February 2021, 3,795 incidents of anti-Asian hate were recorded, 103 of those in Texas.
Texas also has 20% of the cases are physical assaults.
That's a higher percentage than the rest of the nation. And keep in mind all the cases that go unreported and unpunished.
For me, it's clear there's been a surge of racism. There's been an increase in hate crimes and overall blatant racism and racist policies.
A report by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism found an overall decrease of hate crimes in 2020 by about 7%. But among Asian Americans, that number went up 149% in 2020. Senior Corporal Nam knows underreporting is also a huge part of the problem.
A lot of times, whether it's racism, discrimination, or any kind of crime reporting, we rarely get any calls.
He says there are many reasons for this, including language barrier, fear of police, or the risk of retaliation. And that's why, for Nam, he is proud to be a Korean American police officer. He's assigned to the Asian Community Outreach Unit, and his job is to bridge the gap.
Now, I know there's times where Asian community, when they interact with police, they are afraid and they don't know what to do. And sometimes during traffic stops, they come out, they don't understand the language, and there's miscommunication. So that's where I come in to help that.
He wants people to come forward with incidents of racism. He is one of many Asian Americans taking a stand. Holly Wynn used her OMG Tacos social media platform to protect her employees.
We just put out on Facebook what happened and that, that's not okay.
She pledged to ban racist and ignorant people from her restaurant.
We better say something before it turns to violence.
Speaking out is the first step for many Asian Americans who are raised to keep their head down and work hard. Lang is sharing his story to break the silence.
We're all one race, we're the human race.
And he's right. No matter what color, everyone needs to be a part of this conversation. Step in when you see wrong, report any and all incidents, educate yourself and those around you, and together we can stop Asian hate. In Dallas, I'm Tiffany Liou.
Scene 5, take 1.
I have not experienced violence myself. However, the Asian American experience is more like death by 1,000 cuts rather than like outright violence. Because of the harmful rhetoric that's been going around, it has brought violence to the forefront of racism against Asians. Personally, I'm not gonna sit still. Now that I have your attention, I'd like you to know I am a mother. I am a business owner. I love food. I am not a virus. My name is Jenny Cho, and I own a small gourmet donut shop called Detour Donuts in Frisco, Texas. I was born in Busan, South Korea. We moved here when I was 7, and since then I've been living in Texas. Growing up, I did a very good job being as white as possible. That's how I was taught to be in order to assimilate. That's really pretty much every Asian American kid's story. The amount of self-hatred that we have for like the shape of our eyes and the color of our hair. It's a massive like identity crisis that came from the need to fit in. How badly I wanted to run away from being Korean. It is a lot to unlearn. I have an American son, so hopefully by the time he gets to a place where he understands more of these concepts, he will be able to walk out embracing his identity and embracing what he looks like rather than being ashamed of it. Asian racism is so unique because it doesn't all look like outright racism. It's like, did he mean to say that? Or was I not chosen to be on that team because I'm Asian? After the Atlanta shootings, we made a yellow donut that says #StopAsianHate. And all the proceeds went to AAPI GoFundMes. And I talked about it extensively on social media. We are so taught and conditioned to repress our feelings, because if we speak up, it's considered disrespect, right? And that's like not a thing in our culture. But it requires speaking up. We got a call saying, those donuts you're making, you shouldn't be making those. You're making a fool of yourselves. It takes a lot of hate to make that call to let us know that we should stay quiet. I have no other choice but to take every resource I've got and try to do what I can. Get one more person to open their eyes or one more person to open their hearts. I have to stand up because silence is not an option. Racism is hate. This is an issue where there shouldn't be any gray space. It's like you're, like, are you racist or are you not? And are you doing something about it or are you not? Like, are you speaking up or are you being silent? Like, those are your options. So what are you going to do now?